Well, hello. Thank you all for coming today. It's an honor that you're all here just in support of the industry overall, but also in support of Minnesota blockchain. Just want to definitely send an extra thanks to the Filecoin Foundation, Storj, and also to the Storj Institute for sponsoring the event today, and for our panelists today. So Dominic, Catherine, and Aaron, who are here to join us on this today. If you could each just take a moment to share a little bit about Storj Institute, and the Filecoin Foundation.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here with you tonight. So myself, I'm Dominic Marino. I'm a solution architect at Storj, and Storj is a cloud object provider. We've built a different type of network, so we compete with Amazon, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. And what we've done is we've allowed tens of thousands of node operators to join that economy. So we have a distributed object storage platform. Basically, you can store files on it, and we're really good at delivering those files around the globe like a CDN would. As far as the Institute goes, I'll hand over to Catherine.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Hello, Minnesota. Says the girl from Wisconsin, but recently Minnesotan as of 2018. I couldn't be more proud to be here. And I couldn't be more proud for the fact that Storj Institute started right here. This is a nonprofit 501c4. What we do is we focus on education, policy advocacy, and amplification of projects by those who have been traditionally left out of tech. And moving into Web3, we're working to make Web3 more inclusive. And what better place to do it than right here in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota? Now, I'd be remiss if I were to introduce myself, Catherine Johnson, head of People Ops, Legal Compliance with Storj, and as of this year, board member with Storj Institute. But I'd be remiss without identifying and acknowledging the efforts of so many people around, but especially those who are present with us tonight, who I really want to acknowledge. One of them is Bridget Duran, who helped start Blockchain Association. Could you stand up, Bridget? She's our executive director, and she's come all the way from California. We also have Kellen David, and we have Johnny Helmberger here. And we've also recently enjoyed the support of so many different groups in the Twin Cities, including the Emerging Africa Forum, Eric Kaigama recently, and Twin Cities Startup Week. So there's simply no better place to be than right here in the Twin Cities to be leading the charge to innovate and to bring forth a more inclusive Web3. And we're going to get into it tonight, talking a little bit about why that's the case.
Amazing. So I'm Aaron Stanley with Filecoin Foundation. And Filecoin Foundation is essentially the entity that is the governance and stewardship entity of the Filecoin network, which is another decentralized storage protocol, crypto-powered decentralized storage network. Essentially, we're building a marketplace for storage that is built on crypto economic incentives and cryptographic proofs. We are excited to be here. We have a big kind of presence at this last year. We've been making a big presence at lots of larger events. You've seen us at Consensus. You'll see us at Web Summit in Lisbon next month. But we're also trying to do a lot more just like kind of local meetup type events, local events like this, a lot more kind of hackathons and real kind of just organic, getting into the, really supporting the local crypto blockchain communities wherever they're at. So really excited to be here and excited to be able to support just the Minnesota Blockchain Initiative. And it's obviously got a lot of work to put this on. So really, really grateful to be here.
So with regard to blockchain and decentralized storage, you both are organizations that on paper look like you should be competitors, right? Here with Minnesota Blockchain's initiative, one of the biggest things that we're looking to focus on is the broader ecosystem and the beauty of that ecosystem, finding all the stakeholders and all the players here, from the large businesses that are employing enterprise technologists all the way through to the NFT and crypto space and the folks involved there. to investors, to all of those participating, from a just even coding standpoint to graphic designers, et cetera, all the people that are involved in this full industry. For folks that on paper look like you should be competitors, can you speak a little bit to what being a part of that broader ecosystem looks like and how it feels to be on stage together?
I would love to answer that. So the first thing, I made friends with so many people at DWeb Camp this year. So we were together. We spent nearly a week working with each other on panels. I got to speak with Danny O'Brien. We are complementary efforts. Very clearly, the Filecoin has come to the market with IPFS originally, which is an incredible idea that they, of course, open sourced, much like we have our entire tech stack. Well, we run IPFS on Storj as well. It is a great complement to our network. When you look at how our networks function, really, if you want to keep it high level, Filecoin has moved more in the direction of cold storage, and we've moved more in the direction of warm or hot storage that is delivered, something you might download many times, a backup you want to get really fast. But these are complementary efforts in the space. The pie is gigantic, and we all just really want Bezos' boat, right? Like, that's what we're doing. There's plenty to go around, and we're focused in different areas, and we're so complementary.
And I think if there's one thing that you all take away from at least this session here tonight is that, everyone had their own kind of entrance into crypto or blockchain, right? Maybe it was for some people it was Bitcoin, for some people it was kind of privacy, some people maybe it's like enterprise applications, NFTs, meme coins, whatever your cup of tea is. And you've all undoubtedly heard the FUD that there's no actual real world use cases for this technology, right? We've all heard this over and over again from the various critics. And I think what we would all be in agreement with here is that this use case of decentralized storage, like blockchain, crypto fueled decentralized storage, this is the largest commercial application of Web3 blockchain technology at the moment, in the world right now. As an example, I'm sure the Storj folks can give you some stats on their network, but on the Filecoin network, we have 4,000 storage providers worldwide. We have 17 exabytes worth of storage capacity. We're onboarding at a pace of about 2 petabytes per day of data, of live data onto the network. We started this year at 25 petabytes. We're now at 225 petabytes. We have 93 million NFTs stored on our NFT storage platform. And you should definitely go check out the swag table over there and get some of these fun NFT storage hats and hair scrunchies and stuff. What I'd like to suggest to you is that this is one of these use cases where the addressable market is so huge, and there hasn't really been any significant innovation in the world of cloud storage basically since AWS came online in 2006, almost 15 years ago. So this is what we're representing here on stage is really the next evolution of data storage, stored in a provable, resilient manner. And this is really we're really talking about infrastructure for a digital civilization here, as we increasingly move away from large centralized tech companies that are sort of hoovering up all of our data and our information and whatnot. So anyway.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that we are still in early days. So you might not hear about all of the various applications that you hear about in Web 2, but what's happening is we're building the infrastructure, and that's really important. And one of the first steps in that is building the data storage layer. And I think it's really important to walk away from here knowing that data storage is one of the earliest uses here. For example, Storj was ranked #1 in the Web3 index, which is pretty amazing. What that speaks to, thank you.
That's huge. That's a tremendous accomplishment.
What that speaks to is real world usage. That's what they're measuring. And so, yes, the possibilities are infinite of what will be built on Web3 and what the future of the internet is. But when we're building decentralized storage, we're almost in ways the pioneers building that data layer that's necessary for all of those possibilities to materialize.
Now, you had mentioned a partnership earlier with between the two of you with Starling Labs. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So some of the wonderful projects we've had the opportunity through a relationship we have with the Internet Archive to get involved with is a project called Starling Labs, which is documenting the atrocities occurring in Ukraine. So they scrape the internet, they scrape Twitter, Instagram, all likes of social media, and they archive that to be able to be used, frankly, at The Hague later. So there's a lot of good that our projects are able to do. And I want to hand this down because we're actually both working on this together. I won't say we're sitting at the same desk, but we're both providing organizations the storage space to make a difference. And we're proud to be involved.
And to chime in on that, this organization, Starling Labs, it's a collaboration out of USC and Stanford University. And before the Ukraine war broke out, what Starling had been doing was focusing on uploading and preserving testimonies of like genocide survivors from everything dating back to like World War II and more recent, with the understanding that this is a great use case this is a great example demonstrating the validity of like, why do you need data preservation? Why do you need data that is stored in a resilient manner that can't be deleted or destroyed or, made just wiped out of cyberspace essentially if the wrong, political party comes into power or the wrong dictator or president comes into power and says, I don't support this. I don't think this is what really happened. We got to delete you, right? You're an unperson now. So what he's been doing has been going around cataloging all these testimonies to be able to demonstrate for future generations, essentially, this is what happened. This is these people's stories. And because this data is all stored on a very, basically in a way that can't be tampered with, it's redundantly stored across multiple nodes around the world, that this data, we have assurance that this data will be around forever, essentially. So this is just kind of the practical aspect, I think, of. So a lot of what we've been doing at the foundation is really trying to onboard a lot of data clients who have essentially, very, cultural types of data sets that are maybe sensitive in some capacity. Like I was just talking to some folks out of Brazil last couple weeks ago who are trying to catalog like data on Amazon indigenous peoples, right, who are kind of at risk of being wiped out or kind of going extinct or whatever. So things of that nature that there is a very applicable sort of use case there. In addition to, we also have a lot of research institutions, universities, scientific organizations. A lot of these guys that just have truckloads of data, they may not necessarily need to use every day, but they can't just like get rid of it. They have to keep it around, and it's kind of a ball and chain on their leg of some sort. And I think one of the advantages that we have, that both of our networks have, is that we're able to offer basically insanely cheap prices compared to existing cloud storage services. And granted, we don't have, it's not the exact same functionality, but like we're getting to that point, right? We've been live Filecoin's been live for 2 years now. You've been live for maybe a little bit longer, I think. But this is still early days, but this is basically what the future of internet infrastructure is going to look like at the end of the day.
So you're speaking to how significantly affordable it can be over cloud storage providers and the big three that we're used to, like the AWS, Azure, and Google. With regard to the other features, the privacy and security, can you speak to that? What are the benefits that you provide?
Sure. So when your stuff is in one place, somebody can come get it. You can take efforts to encrypt it. They can get a copy of it. They can collect and wait, maybe, for the ability to decrypt it. When you utilize the storage network, no node will ever have more than 1/29th of what we refer to as parity required to put your data back together. In addition, we enforce end-to-end encryption on the network as an additional layer. And without diving too deep, which by the way, I'd be happy to do after this panel, if anyone wants to talk tech, without diving too deep, ultimately we had to make it impossible to find your data because it's stored on over 16,000 nodes around the globe. So we had to build a network in a way that would be zero trust to assure the confidentiality, integrity, and finally the availability of your data.
And it's similar with Filecoin, right, where we have 4,000 storage providers around the world, and it's really incumbent upon the data client themselves to decide, okay, how redundantly do I want my data stored? Do I want my data stored in 5, 10 different locations in different countries around the world? Do I want to shard that data and put it into So the goal is to basically take the data outside of just the confines of one single centralized provider that basically becomes the key holder of your data, right? That's the whole idea behind Web3 is this idea of like owning your own data and being able to control your own data. And so when you think about all these applications that you've probably experimented with in crypto and Web3, and a lot of these things are actually basically running on centralized cloud storage providers, right? So it's kind of, it feels like you're kind of building a, what you may call it, like trying to build like decentralized applications and a decentralized internet on top of centralized storage seems like a recipe for failure, essentially. So.
Yeah, those are really good points. Now, if you ask 5 different people what Web3 is, you're going to get 5 different answers. Again, it's still early days, and partly that's because it's being built. We're building it. It's being discovered. The opportunities and the possibilities are being discovered, but it takes this infrastructure for that to happen. What's important, though, in my mind, is to note the weaknesses of Web 2, what went wrong, and what we can do better. And those are the big pressing issues: data privacy, security, safety. Now that's happening on a technological level. It's also happening on a government level. And I do like to hear comments like I heard earlier about nonpartisan efforts to make sure that the internet of the future and the Web3 that we're going to is more safe and secure. As you've heard from Aaron and Dom, we have the technology to do that, but we also have to have the will and the desire and the drive to make sure that that happens. And I think that's where, some of Filecoin Foundation and Storj Institute's work is done. It's to expand on the projects that are happening now, and definitely with Storj Institute to make sure that we bring the benefits of diversity, equity, and inclusion, safety, security, privacy into Web3.
Actually, Catherine, can you speak to just a few examples of what the Storj Institute is currently doing?
Certainly. As I mentioned, we're focusing as a 501c4 nonprofit, we're focusing on 3 areas: education, policy advocacy, and amplification of projects. So Storj Institute was founded just this year, so we're just getting started. But what we're doing is we're making sure to raise the education and the awareness level of all people who can be involved in tech, and opening that up and bringing more people into tech and more people into Web3. Earlier this year, we created something called Wevolution, where we brought together people from different disciplines, different backgrounds, and got them comfortable with the language of Web3, because that's really important as a starting point. We also work with groups that, like nonpartisan groups like the Wilson Center, Digital Assets Forum, that are working to educate our policymakers so that when they make important decisions that are going to affect our lives, they know what they're talking about. We also joined Blockchain Association for the same purpose. And then when it comes to amplification, we have a grant program, and we've just gotten that off the ground. And we have grant candidates that are right here in Minnesota that are working on Web3 technologies and blockchain technologies, with the idea of making a more inclusive Web3.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. So as we've talked about this is an evolving industry, and we're still in the infancy stages of such. I'm a founder of For Dathos, which is a blockchain-based platform for supply chain management. We are dealing specifically with agricultural commodities. So here in the state of Minnesota, we're looking at large agribusiness like the General Mills, Cargills, et cetera, of the world, to start adopting more and more Web3 technologies. One thing that I'm very interested in with both of your businesses, there are folks here from Target and Ecolab, several other organizations. At Storj, what are some practical applications of the technology that you provide?
So one of the main focuses I have at Storj is really connecting traditional organizations, organizations that have had no exposure to blockchain at all, to the benefits of Web3. So what are the benefits of Web3 when it comes to storage? Well, the first one is the availability or the resiliency of your data. If you spread your data over the entire globe, you can lose a state, a country, a continent. Your data is fine. So, for instance, we offer 11 nines of durability in our base SLA, which is roughly the equivalent of 16 availability zones at AWS. Another benefit of this would be, for instance, these Web 2 organizations or these small, medium, large traditional businesses can then realize performance that they've not experienced before. Because when your data is coming from one point and going to one point, there's a finite speed at which you can accomplish moving it. Frankly, with decentralization, all of these things are better because all of a sudden, well, why not download it from 16 places or 64 places or hundreds of places at the same time? Finally, there's the value. So for, again, these organizations that may have some exposure or no exposure to blockchain, we can provide them, and this both of us, incredible savings. So at Storj, for instance, we tend to initially look at a potential customer's bill. Generally, we can knock a zero off it, which is almost unbelievable in the
It's
first
tremendous from a savings.
So,
yes.
So let's imagine I don't know what Target's spending, but let's have fun with it. So let's imagine a client is spending $200,000 a month to store their data, which is not uncommon. Well, it's $20,000 or less when you come to us. So there's the durability, there's the performance. It's literally better, faster, cheaper, which is something I never thought I would be saying, but you get it all.
Yeah, and on the Filecoin side, I would just add that we are, I think as Dom mentioned earlier, we're a little bit more focused on kind of data sets that are ripe for cold storage, essentially. So we've been talking to different research institutions, a lot of scientific organizations that have lots of data. We're branching into new verticals such as kind of like genomics and the medical research, that type of data, artificial intelligence data. That's been a new kind of push lately, as well as like metaverse and gaming. A lot of talk about the metaverse, one of these buzzwords, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to have basically two metaverses. There's going to be kind of the Facebook Meta, Mark Zuckerberg metaverse, and there's going to be the open metaverse, right? Which is kind of open source and open to anybody, right? And that open metaverse is going to have to live on a decentralized storage platform, and it's obviously going to create a ton of data that needs to be stored somewhere. And we've also been making a really big push around to try to onboard public data sets from like state and local government entities. A lot of these folks have tons of data that they need stored someplace. They don't necessarily need to use it every day, but they need to store it someplace. There's also, these types of organizations are always there's ransomware attacks, all the time. So storing your data in a more decentralized and resilient way essentially kind of offsets some of those threats, in addition to providing cost savings, just because we're just discussing it's insanely cheap on both of our platforms right now compared to existing alternatives. So we do have a partnership with New York City Open Data Initiative. So they're currently storing on Filecoin right now. And there's a few other state and local governments that are in the works that are in the process of putting some of their data on the network as well. So those are just some of the kind of the high level use cases of types of data sets that are being kind of actively stored in the network right now.
So in the healthcare sector, like an Optum or United Healthcare, just what's a quick example of how they would be able to utilize Filecoin?
So it's like I was mentioning, if it's optimally, you're looking at, okay, we've done we've done all this research. We need to keep this data someplace. This may not even if it's just we need to keep this data in arrears, dating back 10, 15, 20 years, just in case we need it in the future at some point. That type of data set would really be a prime candidate for a Filecoin network upload. Whereas if you need something that's a bit more, like probably the main difference between the two platforms, as we discussed, was really Storj has put more emphasis on kind of the retrieval side of things and being able to retrieve things quickly. Whereas we're still in the process of building out retrieval markets. That's kind of like the next phase of our roadmap, but we haven't quite gotten there yet.
And just a quick closing question, because this has definitely been a very robust conversation around the real world use cases for true utility and infrastructure. For the future of each of your businesses, what is one thing that you'd want the audience here to know about the direction that you're heading?
How many seconds can I just sit here thinking about that? Okay, so I think we'll just go right down the line. The thing I would want you to know in closing is that Storj is far more than storage. It's an amazing culture that Catherine is spearheading. It's over 85 decentralized individuals, around the globe. We've got staff in New Zealand, Nordic, we've got people everywhere. And it's great, the talent pool you can pull from when it's called the planet. So the only other thing I would add is we're far more than storage. We're these people, we're data distribution, we're data delivery, we're a CDN, we're doing hundreds of thousands of HD video streams a day. We're a solution for storing your data and delivering it, whether you're Web 2 or Web 3. And we're happy to work with you in about 15 minutes. So thank you so much for the honor of being up here.
Thanks. On behalf of Storj Institute, I would say I am super excited about the future going forward. As Dom mentioned, although Storj Institute may be based here, Storj Inc. is distributed, as he mentioned, Ghana, New Zealand, Macedonia, Ukraine, Brazil. We have people all over the world, and that's one of the things that I love about being in cutting edge technology is that the values within the company are informed by the possibilities. We are an open source company carrying those open source values, including transparency and openness. Storj Institute itself, which is based here in the Twin Cities, I'm looking forward to our future working, collaborating both with corporations and nonprofits and other organizations locally to really expand what we're doing here. This is an amazing place to be. There are so many possibilities, and with this technology right now, it's incredible what we're going to be able to do, but we do all need to work together to do that, and I'm just really looking forward to that and really appreciate this opportunity, here. Thanks, Minnesota Blockchain, for this. This is incredible. Thanks, Trey and Sean.
So I have two quick things to conclude with. The first would be, assuming anybody who's here, you at least have some sort of reasonably well-defined skepticism of kind of like Web 2 tech companies and, big tech hoovering up all your data, that kind of thing. And I would just kind of leave you with this final thought that, we can all kind of, it's not that difficult to envision a very dystopian future at this stage, now that we're at this stage in the game. And for us to kind of avoid this type of future, I think it's imperative that networks like Filecoin and Storj, these things have to work, right? I guess is maybe just if it doesn't work, we might be in trouble. So maybe not the most positive thought to end on, but I also want to just mention that you mentioned a bit about the grants program that we have. Filecoin, the Filecoin IPFS ecosystem is also a really great ecosystem to be a builder within. We have tons of different grant programs for developers, for startups. We have an entire kind of builders funnel starting from hackathons where we're sponsoring, at any given time, we're sponsoring 5, 6, 7 different hackathons, incubating some of these projects with accelerators. We have seed funding, early stage, late stage funding opportunities for all of these, these companies in the funnel. So we have a really robust infrastructure in place for basically, if you have an idea, Filecoin, IPFS is a great area to kind of come and explore that. And the nice thing about these storage networks is that we're kind of like Switzerland, like we play nice with everybody. So we're kind of blockchain agnostic. So whether you want to build on Ethereum or on Near or on Cardano, all of these networks are kind of in play. You're not necessarily confined to one single tribe that you're kind of stuck with forever. So we have tons of these different programs available as far as grants. Jason, actually, who's the guy flying the drone around, he's actually one of our grantees. So he got one of our Filecoin green grants. So, but anyway, so if you're a builder or you're a developer and you're interested in something like that, more than happy to give you some more information about that afterward.
Well, Aaron, Catherine, Dominic, thank you so much today for coming to the presentation. And Dominic, thank you for coming from warm Arizona up here. Thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions about any of the 4 businesses represented here, please feel free to find us during the mingling at the end, as well as anybody else who presents today. So I'll turn it back over to Raphael.
And please take swag from the table over here.
Oh yeah, there's tons of swag.